Let's do this. Yes. Hi, I'm Steve. I'm blind. I play video games, and welcome to the Blind Gamer Podcast. In today's episode, part one of my conversation with my friend Cassie Chui, who's a game designer at Drinkbox Studios. You may know Drinkbox because they made the amazing games Guacamelee and Severed. They're working on Guacamelee 2, and Cassie, I am so happy that she's actually get to work with that team to be able to create the amazing world that is Guacamelee 2, so I'm super excited to be able to chat with her. A little bit of housekeeping. Please leave a rating and review on iTunes. Would really appreciate it, and it'll help kind of make this podcast grow. It's sort of like a little bit of marketing, kind of to be able to get people to be interested in watching and listening to the show. This episode is brought to you by patreon.com/Steve Saylor, but more on that later. Make sure to check out actually the latest episode of Blind Gamer, where I actually played Celeste on the assist mode on the PS4. It was actually really cool. I played it without it, and just to see how I was, and obviously I did do well. That's not really a spoiler if you ever seen any of my Blind Gamer videos, but I did play it, and it's up on my channel right now. I was super proud of how it turned out. If you'd be able to make sure to check that out. And then coming up this week, fine, I've seen your requests, I've seen your comments, I've seen your tweets, I've seen your comments on my Instagram. I will be playing Fortnite Battle Royale, and this has nothing to do with the whole Ninja and Drake situation. I've been wanting to be able to play Fortnite for a while. I just haven't had any time to be able to sit down and actually play it. So I've had other interests in the real, Fortnite was kind of always at the bottom of the list, but so I am going to be playing it this week. It's been in my head for a while, and it just so happens that now Fortnite is probably the way bigger than PUBG at this point because of Drake tweeting it out to his 30 million followers. Did you see that this past week? Oh my goodness. 600,000 live. 600,000 people watching. Like TV shows. Like on cable can barely get that sometimes. And yet a streamer was able to play a game with Drake. That just blows my mind. And it has nothing to do with actually just it's sort of like, I don't know, there was a few kind of opinions about that. I'm sorry I'm going off with a bit of a tangent, but it's sort of a few opinions on it. And I'm of the opinion of this is really great for exposure. For not only just Ninja himself, because I think if I remember reading correctly, he passed over 500,000 subscribers on Twitch, which if you don't know, if you're a subscriber on Twitch, 500,000 may not seem like a lot compared to say YouTube, but that's paying subscribers, and the minimum is $5 a month. So who knows how many people are paying more than that? So if everyone on that subscribed to his channel is paying $5 a month, technically he's earning probably about $1 million at this point, just from that subscription. So good on Ninja, and then also good on Epic Games and Fortnite for I hope that they sort of jump in on this and just really double down on it. I know they have been in order to be able to beat PUBG, which is sort of the top in that kind of battle royale genre. But it's just really cool, and now it exposes Twitch to a much larger audience than they hadn't had before. Fortnite to a large audience than they hadn't had before, and you're going to see a lot more instances like this, I think, in Fortnite over the next little bit. Just mark my words on that one. And if I'm wrong, you can be able to tell me if you're in the future, go back in this video and tell me in the comments that I was wrong, and I'll fully admit it. I'll admit it now. I was wrong. Yeah, I was totally wrong. I'm sorry. So what am I actually playing this week? This segment is where I actually talk about some of the games that I've been enjoying just by myself, because not every game that I play has to be a blind gamer. There has to be some games that I enjoy, that I like to play. And this week I went back to Assassin's Creed Origins. I have not played the Curse of the Pharaohs expansion because I'm still relatively new. I'm only about level 12 in the game. And so I've just been I've been savoring this game. So anytime I'd be yeah, you know what? I really feel like playing a video game, and it's usually Assassin's Creed is the one I kind of go to right now. And this is different for me because normally every Assassin's Creed game I play, I get so far into it, I'm like, yeah, no, that's it. I'm done. I can't play this. It's too hard to be able to play, not just in gameplay, but just also in it's hard for me to read the text. It's hard for me to be able to actually play because you can't really set the difficulty level. So I was able to play around, like to set the settings that I like, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm in Alexandria right now. I met my wife, and yeah, and like I'm now. I just finished. Oh man, that mission where you have to go find that assassin who was trying to kill her. That took me forever. I was like, I didn't know the proper way to be able to I couldn't figure out the strategy and how to be able to get to this guy without actually alerting everyone else. So I basically just killed everyone else except the three guys, the two that were bodyguarding him, and then the one guy. And then he's like I had nowhere else he had nowhere else to go, so I was able to kill him that way. But that was actually kind of fun. But it actually, like, I picked up a few games this week, so I'm really interested to be able to try it. I just picked up an NBA 2K18 for a really cheap price on Nintendo Switch. I've been wanting to be able to play a sports game for a while, and I really want to actually try NBA because I'm slowly starting to become a basketball fan. Raptors, I'm really liking a lot, and I want to be able to sort of there's a little bit of a fire, there's a little bit of smoke, and I'm just letting it grow, and just kind of like tendering it and blowing on it to make sure like it kind of like gets enough oxygen. So I'm hoping that the NBA on the Switch will kind of like sort of fan the flames and hopefully grow that fandom, because I've always been a football guy, and I do have Madden 17 or Madden 18. I can't remember which one I have, and I want to be able to actually get back in that. So I want to get back in the sports games. So I'm interested to be able to play that. I also finally, actually it's sitting right here. Hold on. Finally picked up Horizon Zero Dawn. I know it's last year's game and it came out literally a year ago, but I'm excited to be able to play this. And I had some gift cards that I was given to me, and I finally had a chance to be able to grab it. I was waiting for it to actually get cheaper than what the price was that I bought it, but since I had a gift card, I was like, yeah, essentially I'm getting it for free. So yeah, I got that. So I'll be playing a few of those, and maybe I'll talk about it in the show, or I may do a blind gamer on it. I don't know. We'll see. All right. So let's move on to blindly reading the news. Steve, can you talk properly this morning? I don't know. So as I'm recording this, GDC is next week, or technically as of this episode's coming out, it's starting today. And GDC, if you don't know, is the Game Developers Conference, where a lot of game developers from all across the industry will head to San Francisco, and they basically show off a lot of their games. They do conferences, and they do like panels and stuff like that. And it's really a cool networking event. I really want to try to go this year because they actually have a GA conference, which is basically gaming accessibility conference. That's actually going to be, as of this episode releases, it's happening today in San Francisco, just before the GDC proper. And it's part of GDC, and I really wanted to be able to go to that this year, but I couldn't be able to find accommodations at the time. So I'm hoping for next year. Hopefully, if God willing, I want to be able to go next year, and I would love to be able to actually hopefully be able to speak. That'd be kind of cool. If you know anyone that's actually at the GA conference, hit them up and let them know that hey, Steve Saylor, he wants to be able to talk with you and have some fun. So yeah, actually, so this is kind of like blindly reading the news is more of, it's kind of a teaser for next week's episode, because I don't really have anything specific to the GA conference, because obviously it hasn't happened yet. But I'm going to be keeping an ear and /eye out for news coming of this conference, and also news coming out from GDC next week. So you'll hear that about all the rundown of that next week's episode. Hopefully there's stuff that comes out of it, or announcements that are made, or stuff that's kind of talked about. If not, then I'll talk about, like, that'll be a very short blind reading the news segment. And if there's a ton of that, then I may just dedicate the whole episode to it. I don't know. You'll have to tune in or watch next week's episode to find out. So that's it for Blindly Reading the News. Let's go into today's conversation with Cassie Chui. She's the game designer at Drinkbox Studios, like I said. This is part one of a two-part conversation. In part one, we chat about what got Cassie into video games and her journey to be a game developer / designer. We also chat about what a level designer does, because she used to be a level designer for Electronic Superjoy, if you ever played that game. It's a really, really cool a pixel art platformer with EDM music, and it's a lot of the levels are kind of designed sort of around the theme of that music, and it's really, really cool game. And Cassie was a level designer for that for a couple years, and so she talks about what a level designer does and the tricks of the trade. This is also, just forewarn you, this is an audio only interview, so my apologies for the YouTube audience, but just leave this part on the video and in the background while you do other stuff, and I'll still be here when you get back. So yeah, it just worked out that it was easier this way to be able to do an audio interview this time than a video interview for Cassie and I. So I hope you enjoy it. It's the same kind of conversation, and it's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy talking to Cassie. I've been friends with her for a while, and it was nice to kind of catch up. We haven't seen each other in a while, and it was great. But before we get into that, this conversation is brought to you by patreon.com/Steve Saylor. For as little as $1, you can help support what I'm doing on this channel. At the $1 level, you can get episodes of Blind Gamer early, and for the $5 level, you can get episodes of this podcast early. Head to patreon.com/Steve Saylor for more details, and I thank you in advance for your support. Now let's get right into the conversation. Hey everybody, this is an audio only interview because I feel like I kind of just need that. It's just kind of nice just to kind of get away from the camera. It's all kind of nice. So today I'm sitting with my good friend Cassie Chui. How are you, Cassie?
I'm doing pretty good, Steve.
So I wanted to have you on because A, you're super cool.
Oh, thank you.
So that was it. That was one thing. And B, you have a very, very cool job, which I will get to very briefly. What do you do?
I am in game development.
Yeah.
I'm working for a very, very cool Toronto indie studio called Drinkbox. And,
Can you say what you're working on?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
It's been announced already. I'm working on the sequel to Guacamelee. I'm working on Guacamelee 2.
Oh, I saw that demo at PSX, and I was just like, that was really cool just to see, like, my friends are working on that thing. And, like, and just how big that kind of reaction got from seeing the trailer for it. And just, like, even, like, the cool new stuff that you guys are adding to it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just, that's just so cool. Like, and I'm like, it's so neat that it's in Toronto, and then it's also, like, being made by some of my friends, which is pretty cool. So we'll get into that actually in a little bit, but I kind of wanted to get to know you. So first off, I actually do want to say where we first met, because it was a very interesting kind of scenario.
That's a fun story. I like that story.
Yeah. So I'll tell from my perspective. I want to hear from yours, because I don't think I actually did hear it from your perspective. So essentially, we met at MagFest 2013, but which MagFest was that? Was that MagFest 7? Or
I don't know.
It was 2013, so it would have been like 5 years ago, and they're like, what, MagFest 11 right now? Like 12?
You know what? I'm not 100% sure.
Oh. I know it was 2013.
I basically just kind of classify MagFests by year and not by number.
Right.
Because that's kind of just the way that I started.
Yeah. I think kind of everyone does the same thing too, but the MagFest still calls it like MagFest 13. I don't know, whatever the number they're at right now. Yeah. But I remember coming in on with our friend Justin and our friend Mike Todd. We came in on to Washington like very late at night, and it was the night before MagFest started. And I remember Justin and I we were really hungry, but we didn't want to like order in food at the hotel, so we went down to just literally just a random bar. Like we did not choose at all. It was just like, hey, this is a bar. It's open. It's got food. Kitchen's open. Let's just go in. And so we started eating, and we order food. And then all of a sudden, I see Julian walk in, our friend Julian, and I met Julian through my college friend that he went to high school with, and and then I randomly ran into him again at a Starbucks, and that was an awkward conversation. And then when I saw Julian there, I was just like, it kind of clued in. I'm like, oh yeah, shoot, he works in games, and I'm like, I didn't even think that he would in all the gin joints in all the world, he would just kind of show up at that one, and then that's when you and Michael Todd and JP walked in. I think. Yeah. Was Ori there too?
Ori was not with us. I had actually not met Ori until maybe PAX that year actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, for those Ori actually is right now he's currently the composer of Way of the Passive Fist,
which also, by the way, looks incredible.
I got to play it.
I also so I say it looks incredible, but I actually did get to demo it. I got to demo it on the arcade machine.
I was to say I saw that they did put it in the arcade. Yes.
Their homemade arcade cabinet.
Oh man, I wanted to go to that night so bad. Oh, it looks so good. Like Jason brought it in for me to be able to play, which actually by the time this interview is out, it will be actually I did it's a YouTube video I did, so that'll be up. Go check it out on my YouTube channel, guys.
He got to sit in with you and watch you play it, or
he actually brought the game in. He actually kind of did like a tech demo of me playing it, and
it was kind of hard because he was talking and explaining how to be able to like how it works, how everything like how to be what to be able to do, and then I never realized that how much like for me the audio would have helped because I was dying like crazy, and so I'm playing this thing and then he's like, oh yeah, probably we actually do have audio cues that allow you to be able to help you to know when to be able to hit each button, and he's still talking as I'm doing it. I'm like, I'm trying to listen, but I didn't want to tell him to shut up.
Jason, I'm doing bad because I can't hear the audio cue.
Yeah, he said, just shut up. But I'm like, that's the terrible video to be able to tell someone like a developer, hey, shut up.
It's just kind of a fun situation, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but so Ori is working on that, and then so back to Eggfest. So you guys walked in, and that's why I met you guys, and we like I think all of us we just hung out that entire weekend.
Yeah.
Like, so what was it like? What were your perspective as you guys walked in? Because I don't think I actually remember hearing like, was it the same kind of thing?
It was a very similar situation. So we drove in from Toronto as well, the four of us in a car. That was a fun ride.
Yeah, we had a fun ride too.
Yeah. Just like singing a whole lot of the megas on the way up.
So we did play the megas, but we pretty much listened to the entire catalog of the Proto Men on the way down.
Oh, nice. That's a Magfest classic right there. Proto Men, very good. But yeah, we had a very similar situation. We drove in, we got in kind of late, we were hungry. We were just like, we're just gonna like, find somewhere to eat, and and I guess like it was helpful that this pub was kind of like inside sort of like the resort plaza area of the hotel that the convention's at.
Yeah.
So we ended up at the same pub.
Yeah.
And at the time, JP and Mike Todd and I didn't know you guys, but Julian did. And Julian sees you guys and introduces, everybody to each other, and that's how it all started.
Yeah. So at the time, you were working with Michael Todd on Electronic Superjoy, and you were a level designer for him.
Level designer and pixel artist. Yeah.
Right. So I definitely want to talk about that because I'm fascinated with just kind of like how level design sort of works and like sort of like kind of the step by step for that.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that, but now let's go further back to young little Cassie, young little Gary shooting Cassie. Sorry, it's a very inside joke. Listen to Terrible Warriors of Pokemon episodes.
It's a real deep cut.
Yeah. So what was your first console?
My own console was an N64, but my first experience with video games was actually not that. It was my dad owned. He used to own a Famicom, like a Japanese Famicom. Yeah.
Wow.
And at the time, my brother and I were kind of, I guess, like slightly too young to kind of understand what was going on the screen, but we used to just sit and watch him and be like totally enthralled.
Oh, really?
And yeah, so he had that. We got slightly older, and then he had a Genesis, and we used to watch him play a lot of Sonic.
That is interesting. I didn't think. Okay, I didn't think that Genesis was your essentially your first console, because I know you as mostly like you are like, for me, Nintendo fangirl number one.
Oh, absolutely. But here's the thing though. So technically, it was like, kind of my first console was a Nintendo console, but I was too young. My like sort of second console was it was still my dad's, and I actually didn't really play the Genesis. I just used to watch him. And at some point, he kind of passed the controller over to me and was just like, here, why don't you try this? And then, I take a few steps forward and then accidentally drop Sonic into a pit, and then immediately was just like, no, Daddy, I don't want to kill Sonic anymore. Take the controller. Yeah.
That is so you. Just like, I don't want to kill Sonic.
I felt so bad, so I was just like, no, Daddy, I don't want to. I'm just going to watch you. You're good at the game. I'm not good at the game.
That is so cute.
But I was still very, like, from a very young age, I was still, like, very much into Super Mario because I used to watch the cartoons. And my mom, my mom and dad bought me, Super Mario, like, sweatshirt and sweatpants. And, like, there used to be these Super Mario, like, fruit snacks. that I used to eat. I
those.
remember.
Oh, those are so good. I miss those.
Those were awesome.
Yeah.
And so I had all of those, and I had, what else? I still have this. I use it for as like a sugar bowl at home, or I used to when I was living alone. I just kind of have it stashed away now, but I have a Cheese Whiz jar shaped like Mario.
Wait.
It was like an official promotion from Cheese Whiz, where they had a Mario-shaped Cheese Whiz jar. I'm not even kidding.
Okay,
This is a thing that I own, and we washed it out, and we kept it, and I use it for my sugar.
What is the purpose of Cheese Whiz?
I don't know, but it was awesome.
Like Mario has nothing to do with cheese.
Literally nothing. But I mean, at the time, I guess he was really,
They just
he was
slap
really
his
huge.
slap his face on anything, I
Yeah.
guess.
Right? So
Oh, Nintendo,
that
you're
is-
so crazy.
that is a thing that I still own.
Wow.
To this day, I use it for my sugar. It's one of my most prized possessions from my childhood.
Adorable. Oh my god.
Oh man, but like ever since I was a really little kid, I was a huge Mario fan. Like my first pair of glasses, I kid you not, my first pair of glasses when I was a kid, I was in 2nd grade.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we figured out like, I need vision correction. We went to go get me glasses. We're trying a bunch of stuff on, and I see these Nintendo brand glasses.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. I had those, and I'm sad that I don't think I have them anymore.
Oh,
But they were like,
if I knew
you
that-
think those like 90s like glasses
Yeah.
with like the kind of speckled colors on the outside.
Yeah.
So they were like that. They were like pink and kind of like a light purpley like speckle kind of pattern, and then on the inside of the arm was the Nintendo logo.
If I'd known that those existed, I would have so gotten those as a kid for my glasses.
Those were my first glasses.
Wow.
Those were and they came in like a Mario. It was a Mario 2 glasses case with like
Really?
like Mario on it.
Wow.
Those are my first glasses.
How long did you have those?
Shoot, I don't remember. It was a long time. I mean, it didn't. I guess it didn't take me that long to grow out of them, but like I did have them for quite a while.
Now, did you, when you were wearing glasses, did that like kind of hinder a little bit of your playing games at all?
Not really.
No, it was just kind of okay.
Not really.
Okay.
So I'd always been a Nintendo fan, and I've always been around video games. When my dad wasn't playing a Genesis, eventually at some point he'd actually bought a Panasonic 3DO, and we had
Whoa.
that.
A
And
3DO.
That's technically the first console that I started actually really playing games on.
Okay, what was your favorite game on it?
My favorite game on it was the original Gex.
Oh.
Yeah, the very first original Gex.
Wow, I don't think I actually have heard anyone say that.
Yeah. Well, it's because you know what? It's it was kind of 90s cheesy or whatever, but in terms of mechanics, it was really cool. It wasn't they hadn't gone into 3D yet. It was a 2D side-scrolling platformer.
Oh, okay.
And some of the mechanics that they had in place were really, really cool, and you kind of don't really see that kind of thing done very much in I feel like in modern 2D platformers.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the way that you could travel around the stage. He was a gecko, so
Yeah.
you run around and you jump and stuff, but you can also cling to walls and onto ceilings, and there are multiple different ways to kill enemies and collect your little collecty coin things. And,
Oh, okay.
it was really cool.
Was that kind of where you fell in love with pixel art and platformers in general, or was it a different game that kind of sparked that for you?
So I didn't really get into I didn't really get into games until the Nintendo 64.
Oh, okay.
That's when sort of my video game, actual video game, we're gonna call it addiction, started. What my parents will like to call video game addiction.
Right,
started.
right. Well, you show them, you turn that into a career and make money off of it.
Oh yeah, well I mean, I used to spend all my time playing video games at that point, and they were just like, "What are you video games are video games your life?" And
Yeah.
it's well, Mom and Dad,
It's gonna be now.
yeah, they are.
Yeah. So what was your favorite game on the N64?
My favorite game on the N64.
Wait, can I take a guess?
Sure.
Is it Smash?
Surprisingly, no. I
okay.
really did. I liked Smash 64 a lot,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't get like really serious into competitive. Like that's another. I feel like that's another conversation altogether. But I feel like I didn't get really serious into competitive Smash Bros. Until Brawl, and then even more so Smash for Wii U.
Oh,
And,
okay,
Yeah.
right. So
But
then,
I still loved Smash Bros.
yeah.
Still
So
loved it.
so then, what was your favorite game?
My first favorite game was Mario 64.
Okay.
And I feel like that's an obvious one.
Yeah.
And I feel like I could still like pick it up and play that game like backwards and forwards. Like,
You finished Odyssey, right?
you know what? I have such a huge stupid game backlog that I actually haven't finished Odyssey yet.
Oh, okay.
So
I
so
won't.
we're getting there. But...
Okay, I don't know. This won't be any spoilers, but there is a very really nice nod to the N64.
I saw some screenshots. I'm excited to get there.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So-
I kind of know. I kind of sort of know. I don't know everything, but I've seen it. I'm just like, that is
Okay,
an
so
interesting look
you've
for.
seen the world then, but you didn't like see.
Yeah, I
the...
haven't like seen people kind of like run around it, and I've seen like, oh,
Okay.
that's Peach's castle, and that's why is Mario so low poly? Like,
Oh, okay. So you did see that one then. Okay, yeah,
I
yeah.
did.
That,
and I was just
that
like,
is
all
one
right.
That is
I gotta
one of the
check that
outfits you
out.
can be able to buy. Is like one you can only buy it like when you're in that world.
Mm.
But yeah, you get to buy the N64.
Yeah.
Essentially, and it looks so much like it.
I'm
just
so
like,
excited for it.
so how far are you then?
I didn't get very far, sadly. I'm just I think I got like the third world in. I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not super far yet. Like I'm not even at New Donk City yet.
Oh,
I'm not
that
even
one's
there.
actually I will say, even though like there was a lot of gameplay of that, that was probably my favorite
Yeah.
level because it was just a lot to do,
Mhm.
and it's like it really is the kind of the first time like in that game that the world really
It feels
opens up.
sprawling.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like even just kind of like the nice nods of Donkey Kong in that
Yeah.
area. It's really cool. Okay, so 60
So
Mario 64.
That was my first favorite.
right.
And then sort of as the console started to sort of open up and sort of give you like even more games
Mm-hmm.
to play, my all-time favorite game on N64 is a game that I used to play co-op with my brother, and it was called Goemon's Great Adventure.
What is that?
It's a sequel to Mystical Ninja starring Goemon, also for the N64.
I don't even know what that is either.
It's a platformer. You play this ninja named Goemon, and he's got some friends that you can also play, or also playable characters. And
Okay.
it's got like a really ridiculous, very silly story, and you get to like, you just like run around and you kill a bunch of yokai monsters, and like it's very cutesy.
Yeah.
It's very like cutesy, very silly. At some point you get to like pilot a giant mech that is shaped it's basically a mech of Goemon, so he like steps inside a mech
He steps
of
inside
himself.
of himself. Yeah. Okay.
And it's so good. And
Not gonna lie, that does explain a little bit more about you. That I'm like, yep, okay, those are things that you enjoy a lot.
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, like it was a game that I used to like. My brother and I used to play it co-op. You could play it. It was basically like a 2D. I would call it like a 2.5D side-scrolling platformer because it was
Oh, okay.
it was sort of 2D side-scrolling, but it sort of had a lot of 3D element to it as well.
Sure.
And yeah, it was really cool. Like we played it co-op. You can play it single player if you want to, but the co-op is way better.
Okay.
And I don't know. They did a lot of really fun things. You could run around and you platform, or one person can like piggyback on the other. So like
Oh.
one person will run around and the other will like throw like kunais and shurikens and stuff while you're running. But
Okay.
you really have to trust that other person who's running and jumping to make those jumps and stuff properly, or
Oh, okay.
or they or you both die at the same time. So
So the second player really has to be like, you have to know your stuff, and
Yeah.
then they kind of okay.
and then the end of every world is like a giant robot battle, so you get inside that giant mech again, but you each get a mech. So first player
Oh.
is seeing it from like a first person view,
Yeah.
and the second player is piloting their mech in the background. So there's like the giant like monster or giant robot that you're fighting is
Yeah.
in between the both of you.
This is on the N64.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't even think that was even possible. But,
I
jeez. Okay.
love that game.
Mm.
And it is definitely a little bit more obscure, but
Okay.
it's my favorite.
That again, that
It's a
explains
great game.
so much of you, of what I know of you. Okay, so obviously like kind of that was around what age that you got the N64?
Oh shoot. Okay, so I got my N64 third grade, so I must have been like what, 8 or 9, something like that.
So did you play video games all throughout high school too?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like basically from N64 on to that point, like video games was the majority of everything that I did for fun.
Oh, okay.
Right? It was like my thing. It was the thing that I did.
So when did it actually kind of switch for you that you could sort of turn essentially video games as a hobby into a possible profession?
So I feel like ever since maybe I think maybe around 10, I knew I wanted to make video games for a living.
Even that young? Wow.
Yeah, it was my dream job.
You knew that was a thing that you could actually do?
I knew it was a thing that's just like, I mean, people must make video games. They don't just like appear out of thin air, right?
Yeah,
So I was just like, I remember, back in the days when we used to rent video games at like a Blockbuster or something. We used to go to, like, my dad used to take us to the Microplay, and we used to rent our video games at the Microplay, and
I remember that. Yeah. I used to have my little Microplay membership card. Yeah, including Blockbuster. I had both of those.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But so I remember very clearly. I picked up. I think it might have been like Harvest Moon 64. I was picking up the box for that, and I was just like, this is what I want to rent today. And then I turned, like, something struck me, and I turned to my dad. I'm like, Daddy, when I grow up, I want to make video games for a living.
And what did he say?
He's like, that's nice.
It's kind of like, yeah, you know
like,
what? Like to him, that's
sure.
like, okay, yeah, you just said like, yeah, I want to be an astronaut. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure, yeah,
sure, you could do anything you want to do.
You could be president of the United States if you wanted to. Like,
even
that's
though
not
you're
possible,
Canadian. Yeah. But I knew from a very young age that I wanted to make video games for a living, and that stuck with me for a little while. Basically up until high school, at which point, I guess something got into my head like, oh, I can't make video games, I'm bad at math, why would I be any good at programming? And so, like, that was kind of like at the end of high school, so I kind of sort of transitioned over to like, well, maybe I'm just gonna get maybe I'll just major in Italian instead and just try and get a job as like a translator.
Italian?
Yeah, I was really, really into languages when I was younger.
Oh, okay.
And
so what languages do you speak, or can you still speak them?
I wish. I do. I only speak English, but I have a decent little understanding of Italian. My mom's Italian.
Oh, okay.
Right. I actually, growing up, I tried to learn a bunch of languages. I was really good in my French classes. You know, as Canadians,
we always get the mandatory French classes.
We have to take French from grade 1 until at least grade 9.
Yep, grade 9 was my last time doing French, and I was like, thank God.
I actually took an additional year. I took a grade 10 because I liked it that much. But
okay.
And then I don't know, something about that year, grade 10, just like didn't stick with me, and I was just like, you know what, I think I'm done with this. Just really sad.
You didn't think that French immersion was a thing that you wanted to get into?
Well, you know what, my mom had talked about and thought about bringing me into French immersion, and I guess, which was really, really funny, but I guess I had decided that I didn't want to leave the school that I already was at because I didn't want to leave my friends, and I was like, silly Cassie, you didn't have any friends.
Nobody likes you.
I mean, it's kind of true. Like,
really?
Yeah.
That is sad.
So here's a funny thing about me. The person that you know, the Cassie that you know now, is very different from the Cassie that was growing up very young. The Cassie back then was very, very serious. It was very hard for you to get her to laugh.
Really?
Yeah.
Because your laugh is like so distinct to me. I'm like, anytime I hear it, I'm like, yep, that's Cassie. And I actually, it's funny. So we did start on a kind of jump before. We did start on a podcast called Terrible Warriors, and it was basically, it's an RPG tabletop show. You can go to terriblewarriors.com to subscribe. There's a lot of our episodes where both of us are on it. And I remember your first one was on The Matrix, and I remember you, like, I actually listened to it not too long ago, and you barely talked at all. You kind of were very super kind of shy, and it's just like it was you weren't really sure what to do.
Yeah.
You had some cool moments, but then like jump to a few episodes later when you were in Pokemon, and I'm like, okay, you're this shy Cassie, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm gonna shoot Gary with a gun.
I'm gonna shoot Gary Oak in the damn kneecaps.
Yeah.
Don't make me do it, kid. I'll fucking do it.
And I'm like, I remember seeing that kind of like that curve of Cassie was very distinct to me. But like, are you saying like that was like there was even further? Like you weren't really,
Oh
you were
yeah.
pretty shy.
Well, see, the thing is that so I was already like I wouldn't even say I was shy. It was just I didn't really have the same kind of mindset as kids, the other kids growing.
Okay.
Kind of grew up around.
You're pretty much the definition of an introvert.
Well, you know what? I wouldn't even call myself like I wanted to be around people, but
Oh,
other
okay.
people were too different. Like they didn't like me because they were all just like, "Oh, you're a nerd. You like video games and whatever." Like I used to literally like I would take my like N64 like game manuals and bring them with me like in the schoolyard or recess and just read them by myself. Just like look through my manuals by myself.
Oh, you're gonna break my heart. This is so.
But it's just like I guess, you know, at that age, kids are, you know, laughing at poop and fart jokes, and I just didn't think they were funny. So,
Okay, yeah.
so I was just like, you guys are dumb, and you know, want me to like be and dress in whatever certain way, and I don't like that, and I like me the way I am. So screw all y'all.
Yeah.
So I just
like-
kind of just, you know, I used to hang out by myself.
You guys are talking about farting and shit jokes. I'm gonna be over here looking at Kirby manuals
Yeah,
all day.
basically.
Okay.
So I was very very different person when I was younger. I was very serious.
So that went even into like high school and college?
Yeah, a little bit. I broke out of my shell a little bit more as I sort of became sort of more comfortable about being like open and happy with who I was, you know, like on the outside.
Right.
Right? And that you know, like a lot of teenagers, I dealt with a lot of self-consciousness and
Sure.
you know, image problems. I feel like, you know, I still kind of deal with it a little bit, right? It's kind of ingrained in you. It's just
Yeah, I think
kind of a situation.
I think that kind of like that. Yeah, that's part of
Yeah.
everybody growing up, because especially like because that's something that you can control, but you're not like growing up. But it's something like you try something and people will make fun of you for it no matter like what
yeah.
happens,
Yeah.
and that's ingrained, I think, in pretty much everybody. But yeah, that sticks with you for sure.
Excuse me. Yeah, but so I mean, I always kind of had confidence issues, like in, you know, in whatever my skills. I still kind of deal with that today, and so, you know, I was just like, oh, I don't know if I can make games. I'm just gonna like stick with this thing that I'm good at, and at the time
Right.
it was languages, and then
Probably the same as me, is imposter syndrome.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely, and so what ended up happening was something else hit me right at the end of high school when I was like working on applying for post-secondary, and it was just like, wait a second, video games need things other than programming, right? You
Yeah.
know, they need like art and stuff. It's like, well, I could probably do art.
Oh, okay.
And so I ended up going to Sheridan College for art instead.
Oh.
And so I started out with their art fundamentals program, where they basically kind of like teach you a lot of the basic fundamentals, right?
Right. Were you always into art growing up as well?
I used to doodle a lot.
Oh, okay.
I used to doodle a lot and kind of, I don't know, do little artsy things. I think more than anything, I liked to craft things more than I liked to draw things.
Oh.
So I feel like, I mean, we'll get into that a little bit later, but
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the reasons why I like pixel art or doing pixel art more than I like doing traditional art.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't done pixel art in a good while now, but that's kind of how I felt when I was working on it.
So that was mostly the kind of art that you were always interested in, is just mostly building pixel art.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and there's reasons for that, and like I said, we'll kind of like down the road we'll get into why that is in a little bit. But so I went to Sheridan, and even then, just like I finished the art fundamentals program, and the idea is you do art fundamentals with the aim of putting together a portfolio to apply for Sheridan's animation or illustration programs.
Oh.
And
okay.
I didn't have the confidence to put together a portfolio for either of those programs.
Okay.
So I finished art fundamentals and then moved on to what they call their visual creative arts program, but visual creative arts year 2, because they also had visual creative arts year 1, which had a little bit of a different focus, but it was kind of very similar situation. So you could transfer in from art fundamentals to visual creative arts year 2.
Which I think, from what I'd heard from a lot of my friends who are got into game development, that visual creative arts, that's sort of like the course. Now you can just kind of almost go to any college and be like, yeah, there's a video game course, you can be able to take it, no problem. But now like visual creative arts is kind of sort of like that sort of gateway into that world, but you're not like you might be making a game, but maybe not quite.
Well,
you're more into like digital web design almost.
There was like a little bit of like web design, but it was mostly like here's a bunch of other traditional medium, right? Or is it sort of like traditional media? Sorry. But yeah, so it's still a lot of like life drawing and painting and sculpture and like all that fun stuff. We did like a little bit of like printmaking and things like that, so it was cool. But there was also like photography, so it's just like of like vast like different kinds of art things to
Here are
do.
all the things.
Here
in
are
art.
all the art things.
that you could possibly do. You might not be able to master one, but you could do all of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the idea was like, okay, finish VCA 2, I'm going to put it in a portfolio. Didn't have the confidence to do that either. So I ended up going into VCA 3, the third year of that.
You jumped like just 2 years?
Yep. So
wow.
I did VCA 1, didn't have not VCA 1, I did art fundamentals year 1, wasn't confident enough to put together a portfolio. So once I finished that, I moved up to VCA 2. And then once I was just like, VCA 2, I finished that. I was like, I don't know about a portfolio for this either. I still suck. It's just like VCA 3 after that when I was finished VCA 2.
Well, maybe not quite. Okay. Oh, maybe not. I don't know.
And so it was this kind of like steady, like throughout me going through school was this like steady kind of like bunch of realizations like, oh wait, I can't do this because I'm not good at programming. Oh wait, video games need art, so I'm gonna do art. It's like, I suck at art, why am I doing this? And then from there it was just like I made that realization right at the end of VCA 3, like there must be programs that exist for games.
Yeah. It's like you went the long way around, but you eventually got there.
But you know what? At the time, they're kind of really, like, they were sort of few and far between. And
that's true, yeah.
And a lot of schools kind of didn't know how to teach the curriculum. And so I did eventually go to, I ended up putting in a portfolio, actually, for Centennial College. They had a game art and design program.
Oh, okay.
So I put in a portfolio for that. I made it in, and I went there. It was a 1.5 like intensive program.
Yeah.
So it was essentially like supposed to be like 3 or like 4 years of you know all that stuff that they want to teach you compacted into like 1.5 years. And so we didn't get like summer vacation or anything like that. It was just like work, and it was really hard. And it was an interesting program because it's like, here's all the stuff that you need to be able to like make games, except for how to
actually make a game.
So it was the majority of it at the time. I hear that the program has changed quite a bit since my year was kind of the guinea pig year.
Okay.
But when I was there, it was kind of like 90% art and 10% actual game design.
Okay.
We had one course, and this is how I knew that like it's like actually what, because I wasn't really sure 100% what specific discipline I wanted to work on.
Whether art or
games.
programming, yeah.
I wasn't 100% sure until I went to this course in my program called Game Theory, where we talked about game mechanics and how to write a game design document and how like it's like this is what gameplay is and how it affects your game, and it's just like, and then so I was in that class and that's when it hit me. It was just like, oh,
That's
this is
how it works.
game design. This is what I want to do.
Okay.
And it's funny because so I have a very good friend who was in that course with me, and she and I were inseparable the entire time we were in that program. And we sat next to each other every day, and we at that exact same moment when we had that exact same realization, we looked at each other and we're just like, this is it. This is what we want to do.
This is what we're meant to do.
And it just so happened that at some point I actually ended up getting a job in the same studio that she is now currently working at, and that was GameLoft.
Oh, okay. So that's how what led to GameLoft then.
Yeah.
Okay, so what were you doing at GameLoft?
GameLoft, I was a game designer, junior game designer. That meant a whole bunch of things.
Okay.
The thing is with game design is that it's sort of all over the place in terms of what designers actually do, and it's kind of hard to nail down as like this is exactly what designers like. Programmers program and artists. Oh God.
There's water.
Thank you. I'm gonna get some more. This is like programmers program and artists do art.
Yeah, but
and
game
designers
you kind of do everything.
Do all kinds of shit.
Yeah, like you kind of
You know?
it's like it's like your job description is so vague.
Yeah.
It's like you could be essentially doing everything
So,
and nothing at the same
it's
time.
just like sometimes you're dealing with mechanics, sometimes you're dealing with systems, sometimes you're dealing with balancing, sometimes you're dealing with like the user interface. So sometimes it's just like sometimes you're dealing with like straight up just menus and how the menus function, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're dealing with narrative, like there's like narrative design is absolutely a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing kind of all kinds of stuff.
Well, I guess in a way, it's like it was kind of like a good boot camp because you get to learn essentially a little bit of everything.
Yeah. But I actually hadn't started working at GameLoft until after I was done with Electronic Superjoy.
Oh.
ESJ was my first actual job in the industry.
Oh, I thought I didn't realize that was where that's where. So then that's where I met you was when you were working on like Superjoy.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you get involved working with Michael Todd on that then?
So at the end of my game art and design program at Centennial, I ended up getting an internship with a sort of like one-man indie game shop kind of situation called Untold Entertainment, run by a guy named Ryan Creighton. Very cool guy.
Okay.
Very smart guy.
What games did he work on?
He was most well known for a game that he made during a jam, I believe, with his at the time 6-year-old daughter, called Sissy's Magical Ponycorn Adventure.
Oh, I did hear about this one. Yeah, okay. Oh, that was it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you were just an intern for him then?
So I would intern for him, and I learned all kinds of stuff. Like he taught me a little bit of like this is how you use Flash, and this is how you do a little bit of like actual like kind of coding in Flash, and it was cool. It was fun.
Okay.
So I was working with Ryan Creighton for a little while, and at the time, and they still are actually very good friends. Michael Todd and Ryan Creighton were friends, and that's how I met Mike.
Okay.
Because he came into the studio one day and was just like, I guess he just came popped in for a visit. And that's how I met him, and I was at the time, I was just like, super green, and very, like, starry-eyed, very naive, like, I'm gonna be a game designer, like, yay!
Like 90s freeze frame,
yeah! Oh, yeah, super 100%. But that's how I met him, and, at some point, like, I was kind of finished the program, and I didn't really have anything going at that point except for my retail job. And so Mike just kind of messages me at some point, and he's like, how would you have all the skills that I need, plus I can teach you whatever else you need to know, and you'll work for me full time at like a probably not crazy expensive. It's your first job and everything.
Yeah.
How would you like to work on a game with me and full time and quit your crappy Staples retail job?
That's an interesting message to get out all of a sudden out of the blue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we were talking and hanging out at the time.
Right.
But like I guess it's something that he'd been thinking about. And like, it was nice. He was definitely paying me more than what I was making at Staples.
Well,
so
heck
that
yeah,
was
there you
super
go.
cool.
Well, that was
at
good.
full time, I'm working on a game. I was just like, I'm in.
I
I'm
made
in!
it! I did it! I did the thing!
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's and it was just like, I lucked out. I just happened to know the right person and be available at the right place at the right time kind of situation, right?
Okay.
Okay, so I hope you really, really liked that conversation. I'll have part 2 either next week or the week after, depending on how much news is going to be coming out of GDC. I don't know. We'll see. If you like this episode, please give it a rating and review over on iTunes, and make sure to hit that subscribe button on iTunes, on Google Play, there's now on TuneIn. I'm hoping to be able to get onto Spotify really, really soon. We'll see if that kind of heads up. But make sure to subscribe over on the podcast, or subscribe to this YouTube channel if you're watching me right now. I would really appreciate it. Click that notification bell when you can be notified of when I put up videos. Follow me online at Steve Saylor everywhere. It's pretty much Instagram, Twitter. I think Facebook. Facebook.com/Steve Saylor. Yeah, you can follow me there. I'm also Blind Gamer Steve on PSN and Xbox Live. I won't give you my Nintendo Switch tag because that's a long ass number. So hit me up if you want to be able to follow me on Switch or on Nintendo. So thanks so much for watching and for listening. I'll see you next week. As always, I remain obedient to yours. Bye.